Hello, Saber King here, and I am very excited to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. It's been one of my most anticipated blockbusters of the year, and it will be one of the last few Marvel movies I see in theaters. And there is a personal reason to that, but I'm not going to, get into it at this moment. But what I will say is that I, like everyone else, have been waiting for these two to come together in live action and finally see Hugh Jackman be in a comic-accurate suit. And unlike Batman v Superman's pairing, this did stick the landing. For the most part. We'll get into that later. So I just want to say that as a longtime fan of both of these characters, my one criteria for this movie was the chemistry to be perfect. And to be fair, it's Ryan and Hugh. How could the chemistry not be perfect? These guys are practically like brothers. They have the same sense of humor, they work well off of each other, and they just have such a unique and, beautiful chemistry together. And that definitely is what carries this movie, and it's most likely going to be the main reason this will definitely hit $1 billion at the box office. Getting right into it, let's talk about the good stuff. The good stuff is as follows. Of course, you get to see Deadpool finally in the MCU. However, it isn't in the way you would expect, but it's still pretty charming. There are plenty of moments where Deadpool is going to make references to the greater world. He's going to have a interaction with maybe a few Avenger-type characters that you won't see coming. And it's also just great to see the Fox style transition perfectly over to this. The filmmaking definitely still feels like it carried from Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 is personally my favorite of the whole franchise, as not only did it get a bigger budget, but the story is much better than Deadpool 1 because we got more characters with more layers. This kind of continues that, but it chooses to focus on just Wade and Wolverine. And I think it did it pretty good. We get a great introduction to the main Wolverine that's going to be in this movie, and find out that he is a variant that let his whole world down, and you're very interested to see what exactly happened. Hugh Jackman did not miss. It feels like after nearly 10 years, he still has that Wolverine energy, and I would not be surprised if the joke of him doing this till he's 90 sticks. Because there's no other Wolverine that can be topped in live action than Hugh Jackman's. He is Wolverine. He may not be comic book accurate in terms of his height, but he's definitely comic accurate when it comes to the personality. By the end of this movie, I legit wanted him and Wade to become, interesting lifelong friends, and I cared about them throughout the movie, mainly with Wolverine, as they bickered, they fought, and they were practically getting on each other's nerves at every chance they could get. The other thing that I enjoyed about this movie was the action sequences and the use of pop songs. It all still works beautifully. The choreography has not changed, and if you saw the choreography in Free Guy, it essentially carries over to this, but add Deadpool in it. You actually get to see Deadpool use creative methods in taking people down instead of relying on his katanas and his guns, which is what the character has been known to do in the comics. Anything is a weapon in his hands, and I mean literally. You also have some great returning characters from the movies. However, I really couldn't say that none of them deserve to come back more than Peter. Peter was the standout for me in Deadpool 2, and to see Peter's role expand in this movie was something I'm happy that Ryan and the writers were able to do. Then there's the gratuitous cameos. Now, if you're expecting a lot of cameos, you're going to be disappointed. However, I will say the cameos they did choose, they were very appropriate, if not to remind us that these characters came from a world 20 years ago that ran out, and it felt like just seeing them again was so nostalgic, mainly with one or two characters, even a certain character who never got his time to shine. Now, let's talk about the bad. And there are some bad moments. The main two problems that bring this movie down are the villains and, well, the writing. Okay, so the villains I was expecting to be, well, one-dimensional bad guys. However, I wasn't really prepared for how right I was going to be. Because at least in Deadpool 1, there was a motivation and there was a sense of, well, actually no, there wasn't. At least in Deadpool 1, the villain had a motivation on what he wanted to do for Wolverine, whereas Deadpool 2, it's a bit more complicated, and it actually did a great job of upping the ante. In this one, Deadpool and Wolverine's villains are just cookie-cutter bad guys. Mr. Paradox is just a business suit who wants to get ahead in the world and take shortcuts instead of doing things traditionally, and Cassandra Nova is just the physical force that they have to take down. And granted, she is the sister of Charles Xavier, but instead of focusing on what that did to her, or how her experience made her this way in the void, or even just getting a flashback showing her perspective of what it was like being under Charles's shadow, it is all not included. And she doesn't really, well, work. It feels like the villain was a bit of an afterthought, which is really sad. You could have fleshed this character out and made her somewhat sympathetic, or at the very least, you can see where she's coming from and the point that she's making, as the X-Men universe has had villains that you understand their point of view, even if it's morally wrong. Cassandra doesn't even know why she's like this in the movie. It's because the script says so. And the second thing that really brings this movie down is the writing. Oh, don't get me wrong, the jokes are funny, and there's even some shots taken at Hugh Jackman and other people from Disney and Fox, but it just feels like it was tapping into that annoying well from the Deadpool video game from 2013, especially with Deadpool himself. As I said, his character does progress a little bit, but there are time jumps, Young Justice style, and there are moments where he gets characters killed, and Wolverine even calls him out on this. It's very annoying, and his jokes in the movie, when he's trying to annoy Logan, they annoyed me, and they came off as utterly cringy, and just made me want to roll my eyes every chance I got. However, really when it comes right down to it, the cameos really unfortunately hurt this movie, and they just end up as background extras that are just there to die. It is trying to be a love letter to the Fox universe, and as much as that universe was nostalgic to me, it's not as if it was anything grand. So you could have just had this as a Deadpool and Wolverine movie with these select few cameos and focus on Deadpool and his world, and it would have made it 10 times better. That all being said, I still enjoyed this movie, and it felt like a blast from beginning to end. Is it the best of the X-Men Fox higher echelon tier movies? No. It's definitely going below Deadpool 2, and it's nowhere near Logan's level. That's just a fact. That all being said, I would watch it again, and it was nice to finally not have a team-up movie where the two characters being on screen together felt like a giant fucking disappointment. This all being said, I can comfortably give the movie a high 7 out of 10. It has its problems, but at least it's still better than most of Phase 4 and what Phase 5 has begun. If this movie can make $1 billion, I think that says something about Deadpool and Wolverine more than anything else. So until then, go check it out for yourselves. Let me know if you've seen it, and let's talk about it. Please also go support my friend Aaron the Wolf, who edited this video. Until then, Geronimo.